So I got a really good reaction for you today. So this was a Piers Morgan debate from yesterday, and they have this panel here: James Carville, who's like a Democratic strategist, Harry Sisson, big liberal TikToker. Her name's Abby something, I think. She's running for Congress in Illinois, and then Joe Walsh, former Republican, now turned Democrat. So basically, Piers Morgan brought all these people on to talk about what the Democratic Party needs to do to get votes in the future, win back popularity, since as of right now, they are the least popular they have ever been in basically the history of polling the parties. I want to point out just a few points in this clip and just show they're still kind of lost. I understand 3.5 years is a long ways away. A lot of things can change. You know, the Republican Party can implode on itself. Democrats can take over. But there's still things that they just can't get by. And this video shows still how they're still kind of divided on certain issues. So I'm going to dive into this. Make sure you like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. So basically the first part here, what I'm about to show you, Piers is talking to James Carville, the second guy here, and he's asking him like what talent there's in Democrats, because the other day on Stephen Colbert, Kamala Harris was asked who were the leaders of the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris could not answer. She couldn't even name one name. So Piers starts by basically saying, who do you think are the leaders? And he gives some names out.
Can't happen any other way. And boy, do we have some talented people thinking about running for president. I think that future is just fine. Thank you.
I mean, it's interesting because Kamala Harris was unable to name a single person, or didn't want to, that she thought was part of this extraordinarily exciting group of people that could lead the party. Are you prepared to name some names?
I could name 7 names off the top of my head. All right, but then y'all named 7, and there's 3 more I didn't name. I have never seen a political party at a point in my entire life in politics, which is like 50 years, that has more talent than the current Democratic Party has.
Never in his whole life in 50 years, the Democratic Party is the most talent now. Yeah, okay.
And that is a pretty much acknowledged fact among people who cover national politics and pay attention to national politics closely. And I don't think...
Well, give me a name.
You know, I mean, Vice President Harris, Whitmer, Bashir, Shapiro, Moore, Warnock.
So I think Piers misheard him a little bit. He was finishing a sentence about Harris, and then he was like, Harris. He named Whitmer, which isn't that great. Bashir, which maybe he's a Democrat from Kentucky. Moore, I live in Maryland. I can tell you Wes Moore is not a good candidate. Who else? He named like a few others. Let me go back a little bit.
Harris, Whitmer, Bashir, Shapiro, Moore, Warnock.
Warnock is, no, absolutely not. He would never win anything. Shapiro is definitely an interesting one, which I think he could be competitive, but they don't promote him enough. That's just something where I feel like the Democratic Party, if they got behind Shapiro right now, they would have a chance. I
don't know if Harris is at the same talent level that these people are at. I'm talking about sheer, raw, naked political communication skill. I have never seen better than I see right now, waiting in the wings to run for president. And to not acknowledge that,
James, all due respect, James,
but
all due respect.
Go ahead.
When the
first a little bit of annoying back and forth here, so I'm gonna skip this because it's one of those things where Piers Morgan debates, they constantly talk over each other trying to get something out.
Harris was the first name I gave.
It was.
I thought Whitmer was the first name I gave you.
No, you said Kamala first.
If she runs, it's fine. She's one of any number of people, and maybe she'll be better if she runs in 2028 than she was in 2024. But I would not consider her in terms of expert communicators.
She definitely is a horrible communicator. That's a big reason why she lost, because she can't communicate literally anything. Like even on the Colbert's interview the other day, she couldn't even answer basic questions. She always looks like when she's speaking that hamster's on the wheel and she's trying to come up with the next thing to say. Like she just is like a deer in headlights. She's always lost.
The top tier of current Democrats.
No, but that's the point.
Listen to Piers here, and then look at Harry Sisson's reaction.
The first name you gave me, and she's a complete and utter dud.
I don't know if she was the first name I gave or what order I gave. The name, how stupid is that?
She would not inspire me.
I gave you 7 names.
She would not inspire me.
I gave you 7 names.
Yeah, she wouldn't inspire me. She wouldn't inspire me to open a bag of chips. And she was a total disaster in the last election. It's why Trump won.
Look, Trump won because the Democratic Party, the country wanted change. They didn't want Biden to run. Biden didn't get out until July 21st, and Harris refused to say, well, she changed. You're exactly right. But I admit that 2024 was, I lay it right at the foot of the Democratic Party. But I don't know what that doesn't have anything to do with going forward. The fact that we have all of this talent, and all you want to do is talk about Harris, which doesn't make any sense.
Because she's the first.
Look at the staggering people we have out there. I don't.
Yeah, so he's saying all this talent, all these people he named, they're not talented. I don't know what world he lives in where it's like, oh, we have all this talent. And like Kamala Harris, like if you look at all the polling numbers, he can act like blah, no big deal. She's still leading. I don't think 3 years is a long way. Her polling numbers slide now, but she's still a big face of the party. And that's mainly because people in the party still back her for whatever reason they have. They still think she's there, even though ever since the election, she's basically been in hiding, which if you want to win politically, you need to be out fighting for the people, not going into hiding because you're sad because you lost. Like, that's stupid. So yeah, that's they don't have talent like he's trying to say they do. I think he's a little lost there. This next part here, let me skip ahead. So Piers asks the girl, I can't remember her name, what she will do to beat Trump on messaging, because we all know Trump is like the best at messaging, the best at just campaigning, the best at marketing. You know, he's a businessman. He's good at sending a message. What is she going to do?
For yourself.
Yeah, one of the things we saw in 2024 is that when people's material needs aren't met, they want solutions. And even if those solutions are bad, as I think Trump's are, they're at least not being gaslit about their economic situations. And
did you hear that? She said at least with Democrats, they're not being gaslit about their economic situation. How often did we hear the last 4 years how great the economy was when people were struggling? Literally up until January 2025, every Democrat based how good the economy was, based it on just the stock market. Only the stock market. Even though I think it's like 85% of people don't even have money in it, just based on the stock market. Like, that's crazy. Or no, 85% hold like the top, like a certain amount of, mostly rich people is what I'm saying. Usually poor people have like a 401k and stuff, but typically higher income people own most of the wealth in the stock market. So basically they base the whole economic situation, never mind inflation or gas or prices of anything, energy costs, none of this stuff. It was just the economy's great because the stock market's great. Now, Republicans, I will say, are starting to kind of do a little bit of the same thing, which is a little annoying, but they're doing the same thing. And now all of a sudden the economy's horrible. It was amazing and great until January 20th. And then all of a sudden, every Democrat said prices are too high. Like, what? This is the issue where she's saying, oh, they didn't gaslight. They absolutely gaslit. And if Kamala Harris was president right now, they would still be gaslighting.
I was really interested to hear Mr. Carville's names that he mentioned, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's packing stadiums in red states, by the way. Like, regardless of what you think about her, that should be something that Democrats would want to latch onto. That she didn't even pop up in those names is kind of ludicrous to me. I think part of the reason we're in this mess is because of Democrats like James Carville that have been pushing an old playbook that is outdated, that are sticking to these ideas that don't resonate with people. Trying to run things through 5 different pollsters before you put out a message doesn't resonate with people. Trying to move to the right when the center should be housing, groceries, and healthcare for everyone, and with money left over, that's what the center should be. And somehow we're saying we should move even further to the right of it, when our grandparents would think that's the center as well. And it's time for Democrats to recognize that the old playbook is thrown out the window. We need people in power that understand the right, that also understand messaging, and they're not ashamed of their views.
Now, I'll give her credit. AOC is pretty good with the youth, because, she says the thing everyone wants to hear, especially with, today's society. We'll give you free this. We'll give you free this. This is exactly why Bernie was so popular. They don't talk about how it's going to be paid for. They just say, we'll tax the rich to pay for it. Okay, how? How are you going to tax the rich? Because if you think of people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they don't have an income. They don't take an income. They make money other ways. So if you're going to say, oh, we're going to raise their income rate from 37% to 80% and take their money, they're still paying zero money. They're paying $0 in taxes when it comes to that. So all they say is tax the rich, tax the rich. We'll give you free college. We'll give you free healthcare. They say all these things which sound nice in theory, but they don't say how it's going to work. And people see through that. So this works with the youth really well. So like she will probably do good with the youth vote in her district, but AOC would not do well with moderates and independents in a national election. She just would not.
All right, Joe Walsh, look.
And I also think this shows the divide between the moderate Democrats and the far left Democrats, because she's basically saying, oh, he's only talking about these moderate ones. And he's like, these moderate ones are going to win elections. You know, there's definitely a big divide there. So this next part, he's asking Joe Walsh. Piers Morgan basically said AOC is not going to win. If the Democrats have won a chance of winning, they're going to need someone moderate like a Bill Clinton. And Joe Walsh gives basically his opinion on it.
Well, I agree with a lot of that, Piers, but I also agree with Kat on a lot. Look, as someone who, former Tea Party guy, I became a Democrat 8 to 9 weeks ago because this is an unprecedented moment in American politics. My former party is a fascist party, but you're right, Piers, they won. So how do Democrats beat that? I think Democrats need authentic people. They need candidates who are authentic. I could give a damn what their communication skills are. Kat's right. I want a Democrat who can look in the camera, look at a bunch of people and say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. I don't give a damn if this pisses you off. And Piers, I don't care whether that person comes from the progressive wing or where I am, the more moderate wing. Democrats need a populist. They need a fighter. Trump, is a pretend populist, but Democrats have been AWOL during this populist moment. They need a fighter, Piers, wherever.
I agree with that. So the Democrats, one thing that they definitely need desperately is someone who is actually authentic when it comes to their views. That's something that Kamala Harris 100% did not have, because we saw her flip-flop constantly. Like people like Gavin Newsom is not authentic because he flip-flops constantly. You need someone like AOC is authentic. Like her views are stupid, but she's authentic. I genuinely believe she believes those views. But you need someone authentic who genuinely believes, and you could tell they're actually speaking what they believe. And like you said, you can love Trump, hate Trump all you want. You can tell his views are his views. No one's pushing him around. No one's telling him what to say. He's not following these donors. He's saying what he wants to say. And Democrats don't have that. I don't know if they ever will. And that's someone they need, whether, far left, moderate left. I think moderate left, they have more chance, but they need someone like that. And then this is where Piers basically gets a little chaotic here, but Piers makes a pretty good point. I'm going to play it and then tell you about it.
Where that comes from.
Well, they do, but Harry Sisson, they also need, I think James Carville himself said last week, you've got to, as a party, you've got to park the trans stuff. You can't keep telling Americans it's fine for biological men to compete. Well, Kat, you can roll your eyes, because I know the Democrats love to think in their quaint little way that nobody cares. Trust me, they care. Right? When they hear
I am the only woman on this panel.
Hang on.
I am the only person here.
Did she just assume that everyone on there is not a woman? Wow. How really bigoted of her.
Involved with recreational sports, where I play with trans people, by the way. I'm the only woman on here that'll probably have a family in the next decade. I am the person that you are talking about that should be concerned about this, and I'm not, because this is a manufactured issue.
That's because you're delusional. It's not a manufactured issue. You just want to pretend like it's not an issue. See, this is the thing right here, where they want to act like this trans stuff's no big deal. Oh, it's blown out of proportion. No, people care about this stuff. And they try to downplay it, and that's the issue. Like, if you can't sit here, you want me to trust you with the economy, with immigration, with all this stuff, but then you can't tell me what a woman is, you're not a serious person. And that's the problem with the left. They're not serious people. They live in this delusional land.
It's a manufactured issue.
This is the problem. This is why you won't win elections.
How much?
No,
that's just not true.
That's why you won't win.
People under the bus.
When you deny science and biology, you will not win an election. I can absolutely take that to the bank for you.
You are
will
so
not
obsessed
win.
with this and aren't listening to the women. You're saying that this is hurting women and girls. Can you name 5 WNBA players?
I'm saying if you hang around with your progressive mates, and you all boast about how many trans athletes you know and how it doesn't have any impact on women's sport, and then we all watch the Paris Olympics and we watch a biological male who had been banned from the World Championships for testing positive for male chromosomes beating up a young female Italian boxer so badly the boxer quit after 40 seconds, and that biological male wins
just
gold.
Spreading misinformation
there
at
is
this
a
point.
problem.
There are plenty of athletes that have Michael Phelps is basically his entire body is made to swim. Like the fact
Michael
that you're
Phelps is a
talking about
man.
the fact that you're talking about common sense solutions, all this stuff, and then every single time you want to talk about things, you bring up trans people when they are just trying to live their lives is ridiculous. What we actually
That's because you can't say you're the party of common sense and then push this stuff. It contradicts.
need to do
It has nothing to do with them living their lives.
Material needs. That is what's
Kat, this is
happening
where
right
you're
now.
so
We
wrong.
need to be using
Kat,
meeting
let me
people's material
respond.
needs are wrong.
Let me respond. I have nothing but respect for trans people. Always have said that publicly, loudly, and proudly. I want trans people to have the same rights to fairness, equality, and safety that all of us enjoy. Right? I've always said this. However, at the moment, what's been happening in the last few years is the trans rights lobby has been aggressively eroding women's rights to fairness, equality,
I am a
and
woman
safety.
who likes
and that's when I
women's
have a big problem.
sports.
And if you
She thinks like speaks for all women because she views it this way. She speaks for all of them, apparently.
if you want to run something in America, you want to be an elected official, if you're going to run on a ticket that nobody cares and it doesn't matter, I'm telling you, you will lose. And your party, if they have a leader that also believes this bullshit, is also going to lose. It is as simple as that. Let me go to James. In fact, let me go to Harry on this. Harry, where do you sit? I mean, are we at the stage where I can ask you what a woman is yet or not?
Well, I just think this conversation, I agree with, I just think it's so meaningless. Like, I think if the Republican candidate in Kat's district would run solely on trans issues, Kat would love it. She'd be so happy because she's going to talk about affordability and the issues that actually matter to people, not this like whole made up, culture war issue. And that it extends to the national scale. It
not
absolutely
made
is
up
manufactured. Piers, this is so
Oh my
disingenuous.
God, man.
Piers, listen. In 2028, do you think that if JD Vance ran simply on trans issues and you had like a Gavin Newsom talking about affordability, do you think that people would actually vote for JD Vance in that election?
Nobody's going to run on just trans issues. But if you think that
all right,
Donald Trump
exactly.
didn't win, well, hang on.
Wait,
let me
hold on,
respond.
We're trying to
That
talk
means
about
you acknowledge-
affordability
Let
and
me give you
common
my
sense.
answer.
You're talking about
Let me give
trans
you my
people.
considered.
Go
Let me
ahead.
give you my considered answer, Harry. Right? I think Trump won for 3 reasons. I think 1, the economy. I think 2, immigration. And I think 3, the culture war stuff that you guys love to play down, but also love to fuel. So when there's
Exactly right there. Culture war. Like that's the thing. They try to play it down like, oh, it's not the thing. Like no one's saying a Republican's going to run just on this, but it is a common sense issue. They like Piers said, economy is a big thing Trump won. Immigration is a big thing Trump won, which Democrats are still losing on immigration. People can argue Trump may be going too far by like ripping people from Home Depot or some stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we want a secure border, which it's the most secure it's ever been. I'm pretty sure we're like 3 months in a row now where migrants haven't come in through Mexico at all. That's insane. Literally during Biden, it got over 1 million every single year. And now it's at 0. And that's something no one talks about. That's a good thing. That's a solution fix, a problem solved. The economy, I think, is going to take some time. We're going to have to figure out this whole tariff situation. But I think it potentially is going to help us thrive. It could go one way or the other. I've always said the tariff situation is a high risk, high reward. You're hoping, you're basically putting tariffs because you want these companies to bring manufacturing and their work back to America, which will bring American jobs, and it'll also make us less reliant on other countries. As we all saw during the pandemic, we are very reliant on a lot of countries, why the whole supply chain got messed up because everything shut down. So I think it's a high risk, high reward. You're hoping that these companies will bring their jobs back and not just wait you out on the issue. So we'll see what happens there. But the culture war is still a big thing too. This is how the world is now. And you're going to sit there and say, take me serious. But I also think grown men need to play in women's sports because I don't want to offend anyone's feelings. You're going to lose. You're not a serious candidate. And these people, Harry and this other girl, do not see that at all. And a lot of young Democrats don't see this as an issue either. And that's why they are going to keep losing. So and jump to the next part. They start talking about Zoron Mandani.
So Joe, let me bring Joe back in. I've been watching what's happening with Mandani in New York. And it's very interesting to me because he's a pretty dyed-in-the-wool socialist with a track record of saying ridiculous things like defund the police and all the rest of it. And yet he's storming to apparent victory to be mayor of New York City. What does that say about where voters are right now?
Look, it says a lot about where voters are in New York City. I mean, again, Piers, I'm a Democrat only 8 weeks. You could call me a conservative Democrat. My God, Mandani won the nomination in New York City. Hell yes, the party needs to embrace him, enthusiastically embrace him, show this freaking country and the world that Democrats understand we're a big tent. You know, Mandani may not be able to win in Tennessee or Kentucky. Joe Walsh couldn't win in New York City. This fear that Democrats have to embrace Mandani is what's really going to piss their voters off. We should embrace him, just like we should embrace more moderate Democrats in other places as well.
He's basically explaining the divide here, because I think it was either Hakeem Jeffries or Cory Booker was asked if they endorse Mamdani, and they were just like, oh no, they danced around the question, they wouldn't say it. So there's this huge divide between the moderate Democrats and the far left Democrats, and the moderate Democrats do outnumber the far left Democrats in the Democratic Party. And I think honestly, what I saw of Mamdani, he was polling pretty low before their debate. You know, to give him credit where credit's due, he, in that debate, said he's going to put New Yorkers before anyone else. And that's basically what Trump did. Trump said, I'm putting Americans before everyone else, and he got elected twice. You need to show your people that you're putting them first. And when you're in that debate stage with Andrew Cuomo and all these other people, and the question is, where are you going to go first when you're mayor? And they're all saying Israel, Ukraine, Israel, Israel. And he says, I'm going to stay in New York City. Everyone on the stage gave him crap for that, but that's the answer that they all should have given. I'm going to stay in New York City because, one, I don't know why a mayor needs to go to Israel or Ukraine or anywhere else. You're a mayor. You're not a congressman. You're not a senator. You're not a president. You don't need to be traveling anywhere. That was the best answer he could have given, and I think that really propelled him more than anything. Regardless of what his other crazy views are, he shows that he wants New York City first. I give him 100% credit for that. And that's what more politicians need to do if they want to get elected. Now, the only way I see him losing the New York City mayoral race is if a few people drop out and then their voters kind of gang up. Because it's like a four-way race right now between Mamdani, Cuomo, Silva, and then Eric Adams. So if a few of them drop off, then they might lose, but he'll probably win. And then we'll see what happens in New York City after that. Who knows what'll happen? You know, who knows what he'll do to that city? But I think it definitely does show the divide that the left has within their party, where they don't embrace all their people. So it'll be interesting to see how long that divide lasts going forward. Because, I mean, if your party's constantly fractured, you're not going to do anything productive, ever. So this last part is just kind of the sum up, but it's still pretty interesting ending to this video.
If the Democrats could be smart about the way they go after Trump. You know, for example, on immigration, if I was a Democrat running for office, I'd be saying, look, I think the president's done a great job on the southern border. Let's just give him credit. I actually think also that most Americans are very comfortable with deporting undocumented people in America who commit crimes. Okay, we can all agree on that. But what they're not comfortable about, and the polling supports this, is grabbing people in Home Depot who've lived here 10 years, who've got children here, who have jobs, who pay taxes, who contribute to the economy. So there are quite straightforward battle lines you can do here. Right. But, I also think that I wouldn't underestimate Trump in terms of the next 3.5 years. The tariff war, it could work. I had a very smart economist in the Financial Times on saying, the jury's out. It could work. The stock market is higher now than it was before the so-called Liberation Day. So no one's quite sure how this all plays out. And on the foreign stage, I find it quite refreshing that we have an American president who is against war and wants to bring peace everywhere. I hope he's successful. It's refreshing to hear it. So again, if I was a Democrat, I'd say, I agree with President Trump. We want to bring an end to the war in Gaza, an end to the war in Ukraine, and an end to American troops fighting in foreign wars. I think that would be a very winning thing to do.
Harry shook his head at that, like that's crazy. But I will say, I think Trump thought all these wars were going to be like easier to end. I think he's a little over optimistic. But if you look at the previous administration, Ukraine, Russia started under Biden. Israel, Gaza started under Biden. Iran, Israel started under Biden. All this stuff started under Biden. And all Biden did was basically write a blank check to Israel, to Gaza for aid, to Ukraine, and basically said, just do whatever you want. He didn't care about the innocent people dying. He didn't care about it stopping. He just said, here you go. Trump has made an effort. He's met with Netanyahu, and he helped get a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. He called them out on the national stage, saying they both sides have no idea what the F they're doing. He's tried playing nice with Putin, to his credit. I think Putin's just a horrible human being. He's tried playing nice with Putin for the first few months, tried to get him to negotiate a deal. And then Putin and Zelensky both seem really far off on what they want to agree on. Now it seems like Trump is like full force Ukraine, like screw you Putin, I tried with you, and now moving on. Because in reality, like this whole let's just fund Ukraine and weapons and stuff, it wasn't working. That strategy wasn't working. You need to try something different. So I give him credit. He's still trying to end all this stuff. The Israel-Gaza thing needs to end too. There's too many innocent children dying. And Netanyahu is going way too far with all that stuff. I understand that he's trying to defeat Hamas and stuff like that, but he's going too far. That stuff needs to end too. I'm hoping Trump puts a little pressure on that because right now, the thing that bothers me the most about Trump is just this hardcore Israel thing that him and a lot of conservatives have. Like there was a thing going around saying that if states weren't going to get federal aid unless they support Israel, like that's not America first, that's Israel first. That's BS. So they're a little too hardcore on Israel, but he does want these wars to end. He 100% does. He secured the border, something he does not get credit for. And like Piers said, the tariff thing could work. It's just going to take time. You remember when all the liberals freaked out in April when the stock market crashed a little bit and everyone's like, my 401ks, blah, blah. And then 3 weeks later, it's back to normal. And now it's higher than ever. And none of them are even talking about it. Stock market is literally higher than ever right now. None of them are talking about it. Funny how that works, right? It's like almost like they overreacted. But let me continue here.
Whilst also picking your fights and criticizing him in all the different ways that are so easy to do. Kat, let me give you one last chance to not sound like a lunatic. How do you think the Democrats can win in 2028?
Action, not just words. I think we need to be meeting people's material needs. That's something I do with my campaign. We use our campaign resources to reach voters and help them right now. The amount of money that is going in to make a liberal Joe Rogan in a lab, that could fund so many clinics. It could stock so many food banks. We need to be using our resources to fill the gaps that Trump is creating right now, not only because people need it, but to show that it's not, people lost faith in politics, and understandably. It feels like there are so many promises, none of them are kept, and there is so much that we can do in this moment, currently, like right now. I can't overstate that enough, that we're just not. And paying for consultants that haven't won elections in decades, putting all of our money into ads that are not being used in the most effective way, we could be doing that to feed people and clothe people and make sure that they have homes.
You know, the most effective political ad of modern times, according to the New York Times, in terms of the impact it had on voters, was the Kamala Harris is for they, them, Donald Trump is for you. So this issue that you don't think anybody cares about, the New York Times, the liberal Bible, determined it was unbelievably
The New York Times,
effective.
the liberal Bible.
And I would also say in relation to Joe Rogan, rather than trying to find a liberal Joe Rogan, why don't you just do a bit of history and realize he was a liberal? This guy was a Bernie Sanders fan. The party alienated Joe Rogan and pushed him towards Trump because the woke left was so insane. They did the same with Bill Maher, nearly. He didn't go as far as Joe Rogan, but he certainly became very critical of the Democrats. And the same with me, right? So you've got people who were naturally liberals who just have nothing in common with the woke left ideology because it's so insane. Yeah, that's why I keep saying, come back to the middle, sound normal again, play out common sense for the American
my
people.
middle, though, is that everyone has rights.
Well, hang on.
Everyone can afford housing, groceries, and healthcare with money left over.
I know it all sounds great. Give them all free housing, groceries, and so on. I know you've got to pay for it. Unfortunately, that's called socialism, which never works. But you could get Joe Rogan back if you're smart. Harry, last word to you. How are the Democrats going to win in 2020?
That's the thing, too, with Joe Rogan is like, Joe Rogan doesn't exclude people from his podcast. Like, people on the left act like Joe Rogan is far right, like Alex Jones, I'm only talking to right people, blah, blah, blah. But people on the left can go on there. They just refuse to. Like I know Bernie Sanders is going on there. Kamala could and refused to because if 3 hours is too long and we needed my handlers in there to help me out and blah, blah, blah. Like, anybody can go on there. The thing that the left is scared of is they don't like actual hard, challenging questions. Now, when Trump went on Rogan gave Trump a lot of pushback on a lot of things. Okay, especially with the 2020 election that Trump kept talking about. Rogan gave him pushback. Rogan is not afraid to give pushback no matter who it is. And to this day, he's still critical of Trump. That's the kind of person Rogan is. And these people on the left, they don't want all this. They want these scripted, nice interviews with people like Stephen Colbert and the mainstream media that will gas them up and they won't do challenging. And if they refuse to go this route in 2028, they would 100% will lose. That's why I think more than likely out of everyone, Gavin Newsom's probably the best chance because he lies through his teeth, but he's not afraid to talk to anyone. He's not afraid to debate anyone. So he's probably got the best chance of winning just because of that.
28.
I think it comes down to two things: authenticity and affordability. I really appreciate taking lessons from our enemies. Donald Trump in 2024, his campaign was affordability. He was talking about inflation. He was talking about grocery prices. He was talking about things like that. So we in 2028 have to be laser focused on that. I don't think we should dive so much into Trump the man. I think we should talk about the repercussions of his policy. I think Joe and James were articulating the tariffs and how they're having an impact on people. Really dive into that stuff. Hit him from that front. Don't just say Donald Trump sucks, because we as Democrats agree. And then authenticity. Have someone who actually cares, actually believes in what they're saying, and has been fighting back against what they perceive to be Republican attacks in whatever office they happen to hold at that time.
What's funny is he says, oh, you shouldn't be just saying Donald Trump sucks, but yet Harry Sisson's whole TikTok, like 4 or 5 videos a day, every day, is just Donald Trump sucks. So it's funny how he's saying the Democrats shouldn't do that, but yet that's literally how he makes money in his whole career. Funny how that works out. So that's basically the whole video. It's really interesting. It seems like I said, there's this divide with the far left and the moderate left. Piers is trying to help them out. Just like on my TikTok page, I have said a million times what the left can do to actually win and what they need to do. But you can see the youth, like people like Harry and people like Kat, don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear what people don't like, the unpopular things. They think their views are the popular ones when they are not. They're stubborn. They're and as long as they keep thinking like that, nothing's going to change for them. They're going to keep losing. That's how it's going to work. And I mean, as the older moderates sort of die off, and then you have this youth, far left coming up a little more, it's just going to get worse for them. I don't see them winning in 2028 personally. And they keep saying these midterms. I don't see them winning the midterms either, because I think the moderates and the independents still prefer what Trump's doing over what the left would do. And well, I guess we'll see going forward. But I do think this was really interesting debate with you have 2 moderate Democrats that are older and 2 progressive Democrats that are younger, one running for office. And you can see there's still a lot that party needs to work on when it comes to messaging and unity, which who knows if they will. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll catch you next time.